Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Space Game Junkie podcast. I, as always, am your co-host, Brian, and joining me, as always, is your co-host, Jim.
What? Oh, sorry, that was my Darth Vader impression.
What? Your co-host, Hunter.
What's going on, everybody?
And your co-host, Spaz.
You only have one life, and then you respawn.
Now, friends, a while back when this whole lockdown nonsense started, I thought it was only going to last. A lot of us only thought it was going to last a few months. So I was like, let's not bother people right now. Let's just wait this out. And once things start returning to normal, we'll get guests back on. Okay.
So at this point, what's a guest?
So for a while, we're like, when things return to normal, we'll have guests back on. Like, no, what's there? I don't think things are going to return to normal for at least a year or two. So we're like, we got to start having guests again. So how excited was I when the developer of the Starflight, I'm going to compare it to Starflight, which is, I hope you know, a high compliment, Bob. The Starflight roguelike Approaching Infinity, which is coming to Steam next week, was the first person I thought of, really, to have on the show, because we've never had you on the show. And so I was tickled when you said yes. So welcome Bob Saunders from Northern Virginia to the show. Eyeball. Is it Eyeball or Eyeball? Like, how do you say your online name?
Eyeball.
Eyeball 17?
Hi, everybody.
But do you bowl?
Oh, sorry.
I do not. I do not bowl. No.
Sorry about that. So Bob, I want to thank you so much for joining us on relatively short notice. It was only last week when I was like, we should have guests back on. Hey Bob, you want to come on next week? I try to give people more notice than that, but I really appreciate you taking the time, especially with a game coming out on Steam next week, to talk to us. So first, folks, if you don't know Approaching Infinity, it's basically, and I'm going to compare it to Starflight again. It's basically a roguelike version of Starflight. Like, it's Starflight in a much smaller chunk. Like, finishing Starflight takes dozens, if not hundreds of hours to play one game of Starflight from start to finish. Whereas in Approaching Infinity, you can play a whole game until death in minutes, depending on how your game goes. But basically, it's a space game, but you land on planets, you have away teams, you gather minerals, and you sell the data you've gathered by exploring and the minerals you found, and you upgrade your ship, and you have a custom captain, a custom crew, a custom ship. You can have permadeath or not. Some of the starting things you can start from, some of the starting traits you can start from your ship are insane. Like, oh, this guy's a surgeon. These people can walk on water. Just crazy stuff. You really kind of have a kitchen sink thing going with this game. So let's start from the beginning. This started off as a Kickstarter campaign back in what, 2013?
Yeah, it was about then. Yeah.
Yeah.
2013.
Roughly. Yeah, I was thinking it was that long ago. Yeah, so it was a successful campaign, if I recall.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Correct.
so
thank you, everyone.
Yes, I'm proud to be a backer. And at the Kickstarter of the campaign, the game was $15, if I'm recalling correctly. But then something happened. If you don't mind, I'd like to. Could you explain what happened after that? You don't have to go into detail, I understand, but let's go into what happened after the Kickstarter.
Kickstarter campaign was successful. I was able to work on the game for months. I cranked out all the internal systems like procedural crafting and officers with all their skills that you mentioned and everything. And I got all the things working. Meanwhile, the game is on Steam Greenlight. And I know some people might not even know what Steam Greenlight is,
right.
But in the past, as a developer, you had to actually put your game up on Steam for people to vote on before you could get on Steam. Now you just pay some money and you get on, But back then, it had to be sort of approved by the community. Approaching Infinity was on Steam Greenlight for about a year and never got through. And, meanwhile, I'm working, and I'm like, well, where's this going to go? I want people to see this game. And so a friend of mine, in fact, my artist, David, you're everyone's artist. Thank you. But anyway, he said, well, why don't you try this guy I know? And, so he introduced me to the owner of Shrapnel Games. And Shrapnel Games, they mostly do turn-based games, a lot of war games, but they also did this game called Space Empires 4. Don't know if anyone here has played that.
They did. Yeah. They published that one?
They published that. I loved Space Empires 4. I put so much time into that game.
Oh, 3 and 4 are the best of the series. No doubt. No doubt.
For sure. And so I was like, oh my goodness, I could be on the same, with the same publisher as one of my favorite games of all time.
Oh,
well, yeah, let's talk. And so I started talking to Shrapnel Games, and they were like, wow, yeah, this is really good. We haven't published anything new for years. Let's do this.
Oh no.
And I thought that they would help me get the game out in front of more people. And well, I suppose they did.
May I interject here?
Yes,
please do.
At this point, I should mention that when they put it out there at a price point of $40, and I was one of the people who bought it when it went on sale. But with Shrapnel, something that most people probably do not know if they don't buy from there, they don't put a lot of things on sale, and if they do, it's not a very deep discount ever.
It was like $33, I think, on sale.
Yes, that's how much I paid for it.
Yeah.
So obviously, at that price point, not many people are going to buy in.
Yeah, I feel like they can't move as many units as they would be able to at a lower price point. And I don't know if they feel that they're just niche enough and their audience is small enough that they have to charge that rather than try to do it with volume or what. But it's kind of disappointing. But it's kind of been their great detriment over the years because this has been long-term practice.
I mean, even Slither and the Matrix came around. They used to be the same way. They were very boutique, very niche, very expensive, and they still have a few expensive things like what's that World of War game that's like $100 or whatever. They still have some very expensive niche products, but now that they're on Steam and they regularly engage in sales, they're doing far better than they were.
But I would say the worst publisher, right, that I've had to deal with, and they finally got their act together somewhat, is Battlefront, because it's like the guys that make the combat mission games. Because it's like I bought one of the combat mission games some years ago, and then I went back to re-download it, and it's like, oh yeah, your 60-day window's over, so you have to rebuy the game.
I hate
and I'm
that
like,
so
wait,
much.
what?
That's such a 1997 thing. Come on, stop it.
So they finally changed that policy, so I was able to finally get my game back without spending another $60.
So dumb.
It's so dumb.
And in the whole patch process, right? The game doesn't notify you that there's a patch. You have to be aware.
God.
So it's we're so spoiled with Steam, right? Because it's like, oh, I just turn Steam on and it downloads all my updates and I'm ready to go. I don't have to think about it.
Or at the very least, it queues them up.
Yeah.
And then you can go and start them up if you want to do that.
Unlike Microsoft, Steam doesn't block me trying to mod the game because it locks me out of my game folder because Jesus, Mike.
Oh, you don't even have to. You didn't even have to want to be a modder for that. It just locks you out of the folder.
It's like, hey, I would like to just. Okay. So I
would like to just tell
downloaded
it
the Windows. I downloaded
Terminal?
Windows Terminal, right?
Ah.
And I was playing around with that, and it's amazingly great.
It's
But I
great.
screwed a setting up. And
Oh, no.
if you get a setting wrong in the file, then it saves it, but then it crashes on load.
Oh,
And it persists even if you uninstall and reinstall the thing. That settings file persists, and it's like, oh my god. So in order to fix it, I had to download a utility that basically lets me, even though I am administrator on the machine, it makes me like really administrator, and I can seize ownership of that stuff. And that's the only way I could fix terminals, just because like I forgot to close a brace in the thing when I saved it.
For a year, I couldn't download anything from the Microsoft store. I just couldn't. It just it errored out every time for no reason that I could figure out. And then it just started working again for some reason. I don't understand it at all. Anyway.
Oh yeah, speaking of being spoiled with Steam.
Yeah,
I bought this game in 2015 on Shrapnel.
Oh wow.
And of course, the limited downloads because that's how they do things.
Oh, they do that too, huh?
Yes, and as you know, my computer died last month.
Oh, crap.
So I lost my install. And of course, because it happened after, there was no way to recover that and re-download it. So, yeah, that's another thing.
I'll tell you what, I have an account with a provider called mega.nz. They're kind of like Dropbox. And I put all my game stuff Brian,
you're adorable sometimes, I swear.
What? They are kind of like Dropbox.
You're right. It just sorry. A lot of us know what Mega is.
Yeah.
But
I just put all mine up on BitTorrent.
There might be someone who doesn't, who's listening. You can't assume.
Oh Jesus, Jim!
So you
Stop
you were on Shrapnel for about 4 or 5 years at least, Bob?
Yeah, 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, and
that was, then in the beginning, you know, I still had hope. I still had hope that I could sort of change their thinking. You know, I used to try to help with different ways to advertise, people to talk to. I would say, "Hey, check out this streamer," and they're like, "We don't do that."
What?
And you know,
oh, God.
You know, after a few years, I just gave up. I did 3 updates with them, and after a few years, I just I just totally gave up any hope of ever working on this awesome game that I created. And
so is there a term
that has
limit?
all changed now.
Is there a term limit whenever you sign a publishing deal? Like, okay, if this isn't working out, I wait a couple of years and then I can step out of this, or do they own your game for life unless you like wrangle?
I think it's game specific.
It's sort of a cross between the two. Yeah. After a certain point, I was able to negotiate my way out, but I wasn't able to afford that.
So did they reach out to you about
yeah. I mean, it was great because they called me. Well, they sent me an email, you know, "Hey, this person's having problems with your game." And I'm like, okay, well, that sounds like this problem. And I know what it was, and I fixed it. And it wasn't me, it's Windows and their, you know, permissions on folders and read only and stuff. But and then they were like, well, hey, we'd like to talk to you about giving your game back, and here's what we need, and here's what you have to do. And then after that point, you can do this. They gave me they suggested a timeline, and I fleshed it out, and they said, yeah, that sounds good. And we went from there, and on July 1st, I was free and clear of Shrapnel Games. Hooray.
Huzzah.
Oh my God, for real,
Huzzah.
man. I say it nonchalantly, but it was just an incredible moment in my life.
I can only imagine something you created was under like lock and key of someone else for a long time, it must have felt like, and now it's yours again. Basically,
yes.
It must be insanely liberating.
It sure is. And I mean, my brain is just on fire with things that I want to do with the game, and I want to get it out there in front of lots of people and see what they say. Because one thing you said was that you can play a game of Approaching Infinity in like 3 minutes until you die, but you can also do the 40 to 100 hours thing. I mean, you can go. That's kind of part of the game, is you can just go forever if you want to. And there's so much more stuff.
If you survive
that. I don't know. Turn the difficulty down. You can do it.
That's fair.
I'd say it depends on how much you pay it forward from previous runs, too. That definitely has a factor.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I love the pay it forward feature. So July 1st comes, you get your game back, and you announce it's coming to Steam, which is just amazing. Because I've been telling people, I must say, I've been trying to tell people about this game for ages, and they're like, they would look at the price tag on Shrapnel and be like, and Shrapnel didn't really help with the tiny little demo button on their page, like, here's a demo, hey, here's a little demo. So it's like, you guys suck. So I said it. So yeah, just being able to come to Steam must be just a whole new world, really. And the Steam version you're working on that you sent us is so much more robust even than the original.
Indeed. It's amazing how much things have changed since the version that I played.
Awesome.
Even just a few years ago. Yeah.
I'm really glad to hear that, because it certainly feels like that to me. It's a whole different game. When I see the old game, I'm just like, oh, that's cute. Compared to the new one, because it's just this little box on your desktop. It's like Windows XP looking thing. Yeah. And the new one, just full screen, and David's got the pretty new UI thing going, and
I have to say
you got more information.
Yeah, I have to say the new UI is way better. Like that grid of buttons in the original was like, whoa. I have to admit. But,
I also noticed the little nod to the away team in Star Trek.
Yeah, like how they look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm talking about, you'll see it.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. So did you once you found that you were getting this back, did the ideas start coming back to you? Did like, oh, I can do this now and I can improve this. And like, how did that get the gears in your brain going again? Once you knew you got it back under your own house, as it were.
It took about a week for me to just sort of get over the fear and paranoia of, what is this really going to cost me, or is it going to come around and bite me? And but then I started. Well, it took about a week for me to migrate it to a newer version of the language I use, and that was there was some swearing in there. But
so what exotic language is this written in?
It's written in something called App Game Kit.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like a basic language, which is nice, but it compiles to bytecode that you can get a player for lots of different systems. Like I could put it on other, there used to be a Mac version. I'm sorry if you're out there waiting for a Mac version. There's not going to be one.
Oh.
So is it a currently maintained language? Like, if somebody wanted to get into that so they could dive in, it's a decent point of entry. Because we've had people on before that I forget what he was using, and he actually he hit the wall in the game creator where it was just like, I can't add more to my game because I've hit the limits of how many objects this thing can have or whatever.
Was it Game Studio? Was it that one?
It was one of them. Yeah, because he got like way far into the game and then like, oh no, I'm out of allocatable handles. I'm dead. Now I gotta switch engine.
No, App Game Kit, for what it is quite robust. it doesn't have the same kind of, I don't know, features as Unity does, but personally, I think it's a whole lot easier to use. And it can do a lot of things. And I mean, it's not like one of those languages that doesn't even exist anymore. I forget what Dungeon Man's is written in, but it's like the Xbox language, and that they stopped.
Right. That
You know, they
doesn't exist
stopped.
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, and
They
that,
stopped
man, I love
updating that like years ago.
Jim's game too, man. I was playing it last night. In fact, Dungeon Man's just never gets.
It's a great game.
Yeah.
No question. No question.
Well, I watched because he used to stream, right? He'd be like on Twitch and when he was coding, and then I saw like how he was actually like building spell effects and doing his
I watched him do that.
phone blowing up. Yeah, so it was really cool to just like sit there and interact with him while he's like trying to puzzle out, you know, how he wants to make something work, and it was basically like almost like just flat C# scripting that he was doing for spell effects, and they were all like individual text files that it would. But yeah, kind of cool. Left a lot of modability in there.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So how did you get on the roguelike train? You know, I mean, this obviously isn't your first rogue.
No, in 2006, I made a roguelike called Random Realms. It was a sword and sorcery kind of one, all ASCII, written in a language that absolutely is dead now. And there's this guy that always comes to me on whatever board I get on, and he's like, "Will you please redo Random Realms?" And I'm like, "No, man, I just can't." But anyway, I got into roguelikes. I mean, back in the early 2000s, I guess, and I don't even remember why exactly, but I've always been really into game systems. Like, I used to just read the Dungeons and Dragons, you know, Dungeon Master manuals, I just love systems. I love random numbers. I love the way things work in games.
Yeah,
And
we got to
that's
talk
always just kind of
sometime.
percolated.
We'll have to have like
Yeah?
extended discussion about. Yeah, I wrote an RPG. It was a sci-fi RPG back in the day. It never really saw publication, but it got I don't know, 70% done. You know, the mechanics were there, and man, I struggled over the mechanics for years. But then it was just like, okay, now I just got to flesh out the universe and be done. And then it was kind of like I moved on to other stuff. But yeah, but the whole fascination with like, okay, let's sit down and make charts about like what my dice percentages are and what all my modifiers ought to be and how much does this actually screw over players. And I had the game at one point. It was like a meat grinder. It was like, hey, this is real life. You really don't want to get shot, you know. But that wasn't too much fun.
Oh, apparently there's a thing. Thank you, AC Wraith, called FNA. That is like a re-implementation of XNA.
Yeah,
That was it, XNA. Okay.
Yeah, I forgot that too. But the people in our chat are really knowledgeable about such things, and so like I forgot the name too, and then AC Wraith comes on. You know, apparently there's an updated version made by a fan called FNA that a lot of developers have used to port their XNA games over.
cool.
So that's good to hear. The internet will provide. That's one thing we've learned.
I guess so.
Yeah, and the other thing that I've learned is if you think you thought of it first, no, the internet's.
No, you didn't. You didn't. Someone thought of it 300 years before you did.
Yeah, Google for disappointment.
Yeah, I don't know how many times Jim has tried to be like, man, wouldn't it be cool if? And then he goes to go and he's like, son of a bitch.
Dude, okay, case in point, the game that came out today. What was it? It was like a month ago, and we're BSing in
Grounded.
chat, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, dude, they need to make a game. It's like Ark Survival, right? But instead of dinosaurs, it should be bugs.
It's like
And
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and you're like, yeah. And then all of a sudden, like literally a week later, this game called Grounded is announced, and he's like, that was my idea.
Yeah, it was like, damn it.
Well, then again, EDF has existed for years, so there's that.
Well, yeah, there's EDF, but this is a different level.
I know.
But it's okay. So the idea is basically like, hey, let me have like a survival crafting game, except in the backyard with familiar objects, and instead of monsters, there's bugs, right? And then like how much? Because I like the idea of games where you can teach kids stuff. You know, it's like, hey, guess what? You're playing a game. I'm gonna trick you. You might learn something, right? And it's like, well, how much like chemistry and like physics and like insect, you know, kids love bugs, right? It's like, well, you can learn all about like the lifestyle, you know, the lifestyle of ants and how they do aphids and, you know, and all this sciencey real stuff, right? You know, it's like being out with a magnifying glass, you know, looking at stuff in the yard, except you're running scared because it's trying to eat you. And, you know, and then this game came out and it was just like, you know, like The Vision, and I was just like, oh shit. I'm glad you did it because I can't, but I wish I could have. But you know, but it's even having played it today, I'm just like, yeah, this needs to be like a D20 RPG. This needs to get expanded upon, like big time. And the miniatures would be really easy to come by. It's like, what do you got laying around the house? It is actually to scale. Crazy. Yeah, I can construct a castle in a big sippy juice box that's in the backyard. This game's lit, dude. Just don't turn the spiders on.
So what game is this?
It's called Grounded. Yeah,
it
just came out. It's on.
You guys better be thankful the microphone was fucking muted. Sorry, pardon my French. But like, I'm sitting here playing this while we're having this discussion because I'm trying this out. It goes nighttime and a damn wolf spider shows up. And it's gigantic.
Oh yeah,
and
nighttime.
I freak out. And I'm like, oh, it's a good thing we can turn those off for Brian, or else he'd never play this.
Yeah, no, I am very glad to hear that because
look, usually these things don't scare me, dude. This frightened me. I literally jumped. I was out. My heart started beating pretty frantically, and I love playing Alien Isolation. So it's like,
You know, this game, this setting would make a lit roguelike. Imagine, because it's like crafting and resource gathering, and you're running around in a backyard, right? And you'd have different biomes, like you'd have the sandbox or the whatever, like that Hypercharge Unboxed, which we still need to play together. That's what had me like thinking about like what else could you do with, because that thing it's like toy soldiers, right? You're like you're a toy, you know, that's escaped out of the toy box, and you're like shooting all the other toys that are attacking you, and tower defensey. And it was just like, this is amazing. We're like running around in the backyard. I wish this was an RPG. I wish it was something, you know, like I need more of this in my life. But yeah, a roguelike would be pretty hot though. Because, well, you know, monsters are easy. Ants, spiders, caterpillars, bugs, right? Birds. Yeah. We'll talk about
and then it's not just another sword and sorcery one.
Yeah.
That's great.
And the dragon could actually be the neighbor's cat, which is highly dangerous.
There you go.
I have to say, Bob, that's one reason I'm so happy your game is finally coming to Steam, because there are so many fantasy roguelikes, and I love roguelikes. I love fantasy roguelikes, don't get me wrong, but like when you think of sci-fi roguelikes, there aren't a ton. I mean, yes, you could mention FTL, but I mean, but that's kind of its own thing even now. Like there are a lot of FTL likes. It's like Jesus. So to have even kind of more traditional space sci-fi roguelike is really nice. What are some of the big changes you've made from the original to this new version?
Okay, well, I mean, we've already talked about how it looks, and that is a pretty big deal. But this being a roguelike and a game where procedural generation of environments is a big deal. You go to a different kind of planet, you expect to see, different stuff there, to be made of different terrain. So I've added lots of new different kinds of planet generators and cave generators, different sort of themes and looks and feels. You'll find things that you weren't able to find before. That's something I really love to sort of, one of the things I did was I wanted to make something that looked like a giant crater, like not just a bunch of little craters, but one giant crater, and I sort of thought, well, okay, how would that look and how would I translate that into, this tile-based environment where everything's like water or dirt or mountains or whatever, and then you sort of figure out how to do that with math and randomize it. And I really like that. So I do a lot of that. I do a lot of new kinds of maps because, the game is so much about exploration. It's just about, finding something new.
And I have to say, I love how the game rewards you for the exploration, because you gather data and then you sell that data for cold hard cash, which is really, really nice. Now,
and then you get to keep living for another.
Yes, for another few rounds at least. I did notice that I don't think the original did this, but correct me if I'm wrong. When you buy a new piece of equipment that's better than your existing equipment for your ship, it auto installs it now. I don't recall doing that before. Am I wrong? Or
well, auto install is a setting. You can turn it off or turn it on, because some people complain, I bought this thing and it didn't go in. I'm like, well, you got to install it. So people complain about that. I say, okay, we switch it, and people complain about that. So I made it into a setting. Maybe I changed the default.
I liked it. I just wasn't. I was thrown by it at first because I bought like a new engine, and then I went to install, and I was like, wait, the engine I have is worse than. Oh, it's already installed. Oh.
Yeah, because some people, sort of later in the game will just buy equipment so they can salvage it in the crafting menu, and you gain crafting parts, and you can level up your base crafting skill so you can make better stuff. And so some people didn't want the stuff installed. So like, it totally makes sense. They just want to tear it apart and, level up that part of the game. So that's, and so you ask me, what have I changed? And in a lot of ways, I have limited what the player can do. And we'll see if this is a good choice or not, because we're going into early access, and that means that, the community is definitely going to have a say in how the game turns out. So if a lot of the choices that I've just made are wrong, well, guys, we'll put it back.
I have to say,
for instance, well, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I appreciate that you're going into early access. Some people are like, wait, this game came out years ago. Why is it going into early access? Because this is the Steam version, and it's shiny.
That's right. I want to make it 2.0. The big deal.
Yes. You can have workshop support and mods and all the crazy.
I'm going to look into workshop, because there is a shipwreck editor that people can download. But I want to try to incorporate that directly into the game. And so you can just click on it from the main menu. It's not a separate thing you have to mess with. And either I'll go to, my own website database, or else I'll see if I can incorporate Steamworks. But yeah, I want to get as much integration as I can. I want to put stuff in the hands of people and see what they come up with.
Yeah, because imagine like running onto, I cliched as hell, but imagine running onto the wreck of the Enterprise. Like, how hilarious would that be?
Oh, nobody would ever put Star Trek stuff in the game.
No.
There is so much Star Trek stuff in there.
Jim,
I'm sorry. So much Star Trek.
Yeah, Jim, it's the opposite. Every game has to have a Star Trek something. It's a game with spaceships. Someone will try and put Star Trek in there. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing.
No, I keep waiting on the Star Wars and Star Trek mod for the Battlestar Galactica turn-based. That'll probably never happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if
I want that to be that X-Wing tabletop game so bad, but it's not.
Probably as close as you're gonna get to it on the computer, really. I don't know of anything closer than that.
Yeah. But thank God somebody's making Auto Fire. Finally, a Car Wars roguelike. I've only waited 50 years for that.
I am excited about that one too.
Car Wars?
Yeah, remember
Car
old
Wars,
Steve
like there
Jackson
used to be
Car
books.
Wars? Yeah, man. Uncle Albert's Auto Stop and Gunnery Shop. Yep. Yeah, straight up. It's a roguelike of that game, basically. In spirit. Not
right.
On that note, I would be very happy if someone ever made a digital version of Battle Cattle. So, if you don't know what that is,
Battle Cattle?
I don't know what Battle Cattle is.
Battle Cattle is a game that was inspired by and is incorporated with the card game version of Car Wars. So you can actually have cows with rocket launchers and Gatling guns and all sorts of other fun stuff mounted onto them, battling against cars. It's as silly as it sounds, but it's also published by SGJ Games, so that's why they were able to do it.
Now, one thing with Approaching Infinity that I have barely touched, because the furthest I've gotten, I think, is Sector 8, 9, maybe, before something kills all my crew and I die. Procedural crafting. Let's talk about that. How does that work in Approaching Infinity?
Well, every time you start a new game, all the crafting recipes, they get scrambled. You know, you can't just say, okay, I need these 3 things to build this. You don't know until you find the recipe for how to make some. Yeah, like the recipe for a laser gun. Sorry, I don't have a better word. The schematic. There you go. So you have to find the schematic, and then
tell you what the components are, or do you have to like waste components trying to put things together and see what you?
Well, you can find, let's say you find a shield for your ship. If you disassemble it, then you will get the schematic and you'll know how to build one. Then you just need to get the parts and you can build that.
Gotcha.
So you just basically have to find one and take it apart. But there's also a laboratory where you can mix a bunch of parts together, press the test button, and it will take away some of the parts you have, but it'll say, okay, this is close to a recipe for something. Keep trying, and you put new things in there, and eventually you can discover how to build things just by messing around.
That's insane.
That's pretty cool. Did you ever play the MMO Asheron's Call?
No.
Okay, so
no,
imagine
I've stayed away from MMOs all my life. Because I have to live my life.
Yeah,
and I know how I am. I know how I am.
They have a certain traction. Yeah,
smart.
The thing in Asheron's Call that was the coolest thing in the game, in my opinion, was the magic system, because it was different for every player. So I could not tell you what the recipe for a spell was. You had to experiment. So that means you get your alchemy lab and you just blow yourself up trying to research, right? And it costs materials, so and it was like, there's like 30 different flavors of candle that you could try, and combine that with like all the plants in the game and all the the metal things, and so you like make powders, and then the plant stuff, and then you like extract dyes, and then you combine that with a candle, and these 4 things together fizzle. It didn't do a damn thing. All right, well, let's swap another thing out, and so I had like a notebook, and it's basically like you have like a spreadsheet going, like, okay, here's all the things I've tried, and sometimes you would have critical failures that would actually blow you up, destroy you. Yeah, it was pretty neat. That was the coolest thing in the game.
That sounds really awesome, and it is similar to what I did there. I'm not gonna blow people up just trying to craft. Like, at least there's that. I try to kill players in lots of ways. Not that one. Maybe that's a good idea. Thank you.
Village blend.
I
Or
don't
will
mind
it
killing
explode?
players. Kill them in fun ways.
I do appreciate
Critical
that there-
failure at crafting.
I do appreciate there are so many fun ways to die. Like, I think my stupidest death was the first time I found a cave. Like, oh, let's go down and check this cave. What's oxygen? Whoops. Yeah, folks, if you don't know, the game has planets you can land on, and some planets have caves that also have multiple underground levels. But you better be sure you have plenty of oxygen when you go down there.
And honestly, you just have to run back to the shuttle every now and then in order to refill. At least until you have a better suit that can hold more oxygen in it, and you don't have to run back as much.
So you kind of run lap first, huh?
Kind of.
Run over there,
And
hold
there
your
are
breath.
also ways to refill oxygen when you're in the caves, but those are kind of few and far between. You can't really rely on them necessarily.
Yeah.
You just have to explore as much as you can and try to manage your resources as best you can when you're doing that. But
And hope for the
exploration
best.
in the caves is really lucrative if you're
Oh, God.
if you know what you're
Yeah.
doing.
It's so lucrative. And I have to appreciate that you have an auto-explore function in this game, even though it has led to several deaths. So I never use it. I never
A lot of
use it.
roguelikes feel like, you can just use the auto explore all the time, and that kind of takes the fun out of it. I put that in there sort of as a challenge to myself. Can I write one? But also, just because a lot of roguelikes have them. But it's really probably not the best thing. You actually have to play this game. You can't just let the computer play it for you. You have to make intelligent decisions yourself. But hey, man, don't take your captain into the cave and you won't die. Okay? Let the red shirts do it.
One thing I did notice, I think this is a new thing. When you're in an away team, you have two outlines now. The blue outline is, I'm guessing, your visibility, and the red outline is your weapon range.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Which makes it very easy to plot your next move. Like, even easier than the not that the game is easy, but it makes it easy to plot your next step, which is really nice.
More user friendly.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
That's one of sort of my core design concepts, is giving the player as much information as possible. Yeah, I really hate it when I don't know what's going on in a game, and so I really want to help you out as far as, just knowing, can I shoot that thing? Is that thing actually trying to hurt me at all anyway? And putting your inventory on the screen at the same time. You don't have to click a button and go to a menu just to see what you're carrying or anything. I like to have that as much information as possible.
Yeah, that's one thing I really like about this new version, is that now with this split pane interface you have pretty much just about everything right up front that you need. Your inventory, what you have in your cargo, like how much space you have left to carry stuff. You have your log about what's happening to your away team. It's really, really great.
Well, more information does lead to presumably more informed decisions. And of course, if you don't use the information at hand, it's kind of your fault.
Yeah. So, yeah, I've never gotten mad at the game for dying, because every time I know it's my fault. So I've never gotten mad.
That's the thing, like games where, it's like, oh, I tried to input something, the GUI misinterpreted what I wanted. It's a turn-based game and there's no undo. Damn.
Yeah.
Right? And BattleTech, I'm looking at you. So it's not super terrible about it, but boy, it has done me a couple of times.
That's what saves coming is for.
Yeah.
I do have a random question. Where did the idea of petting bunnies to generate health come from?
My little girl, my daughter Maggie, was sitting on my lap, and she said, why don't we put bunnies in the game? and I said, okay. And I put a bunny in there, and then later we talked about it, and she's like, well, you shouldn't kill the bunnies. So we decided that when you move into a bunny, normally it would be a melee attack against, you move into a monster, you attack it. Well, when it's a bunny, you pet it, and it heals you a little bit because it should have a nice reaction. And now she's older, and she suggested a quest involving protecting the bunnies from monsters. That's not in there yet, but
that's a great idea.
But actually, okay, you asked me. One of the things that I recently changed was predatory animals now will eat bunnies.
Son of a biscuit!
Because they're like the ultimate prey. So let them get eaten. They explode in a little explosion of blood.
I have to kill them all now. I usually just avoid them, but now I'm going to kill them all. You can accidentally
level up.
Huh?
Because
you've met the big bad bunny?
No, I'm just wondering, if I could keep bunnies as pets, maybe I get like a swarm of bunnies, which are all like little one-hit things. But then I can train them up. So there's another Asheron's Call story.
You're like
right?
You're like Squirrel Girl. You're like that.
Yeah,
that character
exactly like that.
I like squirrels.
Yeah. So, which is the dumbest Marvel character ever, but God,
so great.
When the Marvel Diablo game, that action RPG that was out for a while, when that came out, that was the only money I ever spent on that game was I bought Squirrel Girl, because how could you not, right? But anyway, in Asheron's Call, we discovered that all the monsters in the world actually gain experience as they fight, and if you fight a monster long enough, it'll level up. Let's say there's like a boss and a bunch of characters go there and they just keep getting creamed. The boss keeps getting tougher because he's getting XP for killing all these players, right? And then we came up with this idea. Well, there's those like level 1 rabbits that's the newbie monster, right? Like go out and whack rats or whatever, and they're because that's the only thing you can kill with your wooden sword. Well, they had bunny rabbits in the one starter place, and so we went out and I got some really heavy armor on, and like if you punched a rabbit, you had to do it like open hand, like slap it instead of the weapon would do enough hit points, it would kill it. There was no way. But if you punch a rabbit, there was like a 1 in 20 chance that it wouldn't die, right? So you would have a rabbit that was very pissed off and biting, and the more the rabbit bit you, the more the rabbit would level up. And I'm wearing like plate mail armor, right? Because I was a high level character, and I've got like armor that this little level 0 bunny can't touch. But I could stand there all day with a pack of like 20 bunnies that are nipping at my ankles, and the bunnies would eventually level up to the point where they start actually getting through that armor. And then I'm in the newbie zone. Just walk away, leave the rabbit. And then a new player comes out and he's like, punch a rabbit, dead. Like
and then you have a Knight of Olympus.
Yes, but there'd be like 20 of them out there. And they would pack hunt the new players, and it was freaking hilarious. That was we made our own fun in that game.
Well, that's definitely some emergent behavior that I would like to incorporate. Not specifically rabbits, but those things where unexpected things happen in the world because of the game rules. That's getting killed by leveled up bunnies.
Allow players to just do dumb stuff, and amazing magic will come from it.
Well, this game definitely allows you to do dumb stuff. There's no
man. Do you guys want to give me some advice on what I could? What I should sort of dial back?
No, don't dial anything back.
Nothing.
No. This game,
all right.
This game is
the dumber the better.
This game is a gem, and I've been telling people about it for ages. And I am again. so happy that it's now going to be at a price point where people will actually buy it, and especially on Steam. Because, come on, what normal gamer buys stuff on Shrapnel? Come on, I mean, you got to be the nichiest of the niche to want to buy something on Shrapnel.
I'm going to hazard a guess that probably 99% of the people that are on Steam have never heard of Shrapnel, and that's the problem.
I wouldn't be surprised.
They'll be like, the what? Yeah, because it's such a weird, like, I don't know. It's like a hipster outlet for.
They're stuck
games.
in time. They're stuck in time. They're stuck in 2004, basically.
Well,
Yeah.
to be fair, Brian is the one who told me about this game way back when, and that's the reason why I bought it back in 2015, January 2015. In fact, I still have the receipt in my email. So to be fair, there were some people who had heard about it from Brian back then and bought it, and I was one of them. There just weren't enough of us, I think.
No.
Yeah.
How could there be
Yeah,
a
well,
price
hey.
point?
Gotta reach the people now.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, what are you basically? You're able to sell it for what? $10 on Steam?
I thought it was 15.
The first
15?
well, the first week, it's going to be at $10,
Oh, okay.
and then it's going to go the whole way up to 11.
Okay.
And then eventually, when it gets out of early access, it'll go up to the price that I had always planned, which is $15.
Which is back to what we
and
paid.
I think
at the
that's
Kickstarter.
pretty right. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a steal.
and I think that's pretty darn reasonable.
I honestly think it was worth $40. There's so much to do and so much content. The problem is, people expect a certain type of game for $40. And then they see, not that your game isn't worth $40, but like there's an expectation of something. I don't know what at $40.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, you drop $40, you want an Xbox game. You want something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I understand, and I feel the same way as a player. I do.
Exactly.
So, like, you can say on one hand that something is worth something and a certain amount, and maybe that's true, but people still aren't actually going to go for it. I think it's going to be much easier to just say, "Wow, hey, this looks pretty cool. And I can afford this." So, anyway, it's not about the money; it's about what you can do, and you can do a whole lot in Approaching Infinity.
Oh,
So
man.
what else have you worked on? Like, have you done other games like in parallel with this? Where you took a break from one thing, worked on, or like what's next?
Well, there
after
was
this?
there was Curse of Yendor, the roguelike. I think we talked about that a little bit. I did right after I did Approaching Infinity. I did this really weird sort of growing plants game called Xenobloom, and like it's based on Conway's Game of Life to make plants grow, and you evolve things in this weird alien ecosystem. And it's barely even a game; it's just kind of a thing you mess with, like a digital toy. I did some mobile games. None of them ever got very big. Approaching Infinity is really all I ever wanted to work on once I made it, and now I'm not thinking about what's next. I'm thinking about what's now.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Well, I was
That's-
just
'cause
I
I
was just
really-
looking at like
Box quote
how
right
how
there.
far you are along with this, and it's just wondering, it's like, okay, this is here and you maintain it, but I didn't know if you were kind of like, if it's kind of where you want it to be, or like for the as long as people continue to buy it, you'll continue to like add to it.
That's the one right there. Yeah. I mean, I sort of said in my description of early access, I said Approaching Infinity is already a complete game, but I am treating it as sort of the framework to build a much larger and deeper experience. I have 2 more alien races I really want to get into the game, and just lots of different kinds of interactions, and I I want to make this thing as intricate as I can.
There are people in the Twitch chat already yelling, "Take my money."
Yep.
As they should.
I will. Thank
because
It is worth your money. I will tell you that now.
No false modesty.
You know what you should do? What you should do for early access is just be like, okay, on the day it comes out, it's $50, and then it goes down $1 every day. So let's see when you.
Not with my history. Not with my history, man.
No, that's a terrible idea.
I don't even think Steam would allow that to happen.
How about if you pay $1 more than I ask, then it goes down $1 for the next guy, or you can save $1, but then it costs the next guy $1 more. You could make like a terrible social game.
That sounds like a whole platform. Like you're like the new Humble.
Yeah.
Oh god.
You just invented that.
It'll be like pay it forward or screw the next guy. Whatever the game show is. I had that happen.
Oh, sorry. God.
No. I had that happen. Like I pulled up I was in line at like McDonald's or something, right? And I get up to the drive-through, and the lady, and I'm like, what do I owe you? And she's like, well, the person in front of you paid for you.
What?
And I was like, really? Okay.
That's great.
What did the guy behind me have? Right. And she's like, oh, well, he had this, and it was like a couple bucks more than what I ordered, but I was like, the hell with it. Yeah, I'll get his too. And she's like, it's the weirdest thing. This started 2 hours ago and everybody's done it. Nobody's broke the chain of this yet. Like everybody has bought for the guy behind them.
Oh, that's really great.
Like, oh, wow. I'm glad I wasn't the asshole then.
That's amazing. That really happened?
Yep, totally happened.
Wow.
That is great. So I was going to say, Wandering Jin in the Twitch chat has an interesting question. Is there a full campaign? And that's kind of not how this game works. I mean, your question was already kind of answered, but it's a really open game. There are quests you can get.
Well, honestly, can I say there's 12. There's 12 campaigns.
Wait, what?
I mean, the quests, the way that you win the game is related to what alien races you befriend. And each one of them has a long quest line that explains their story and sends you on missions, just like any other game. Quest, how quests work. But eventually, 8 of those alien races can lead you to a game-ending victory. So, like, there's 8 different ways that the story can play out. And they're very different ways. It's not like, did you win the battle a little bit or a whole lot? It's like, did you win the battle, or did you get, ascend to godhood, or did you just buy a planet and retire? I mean, it's all these different things that can happen.
Holy crap. I had no idea. I've never gotten that far.
I should definitely make it easier. Yeah. Sorry.
No, don't make it easy. No. That's not what I'm saying.
No, it's got to be earned.
Yes, it's got to be earned. Not make it easier. Don't you dare. Yeah, Ponica says he ends up pissing off one of the races and they end up hunting him down.
So you start the game as a stable boy and you end up with the Death Star. And then you're the Emperor of the Galaxy.
So what are
there's no scope.
What are some of the endings then? Like you said, ascend to godhood or buy a planet. What are a couple of the other ones?
Well, there's definitely one I do not want to give away.
Okay.
I think it's a really, really great joke. So, I mean...
Well, you make that the DLC because you don't want to give it away. Yeah.
Well, there's actually 4 races that don't give you endings. Their quests just kind of go in loops. But so godhood, buy a planet. Well, you can join the resistance and get revenge against the people who decimated humanity. That's the
Oh.
like combat ending.
Oh wow. Okay. Damn. There
What
is so
else?
much
What
more in this
else?
game that I even thought. Oh my god.
You can unite all the races except one into a galactic coalition. But there's sort of a dark side to that one too. There's an awful lot of stuff in this game. That's why I made permadeath, selectable. Is because if you just want to play it like an RPG, you just want to sort of follow a story or go out there and do things, you can. You can still get yourself into a really bad place where if you reload your game, you're just going to die again, but you can turn off the permadeath and explore the universe.
Yeah, and I really like how that's an option. Just if you want a more casual, casual
for a roguelike anyway.
Yeah, roguelike casual. Roguelike casual experience. You can turn off permadeath, which is a really nice feature. But then that turns off things like paying it forward and achievements and whatnot. So,
True.
So yeah, there's a reason to keep it on. No matter how attached to your ship and your crew you might get. So there are 4 starting ships. I've never seen more. Are there unlockable ships you can get later? Is it always those starting?
Yeah,
4?
so you have to. Yeah, I'm sorry. You have to get through to certain points in each race's quest line, and they will award you a ship, and then you can start the game with that ship, and then you'll also find that ship at the shipyard randomly. So yeah, they're all unlockable. There's a new ship I put in just recently called the Scrap Hound, which has lots of crafting bonuses. You unlock that by getting one of the crafting achievements. Anybody can do that. If you ever find a cloaking device, if you cloak your ship one time, you unlock this ship. I forget what it's called, but it's like it starts with a cloaking device and it's really fast and small. If you equip 3 weapons and 6 devices, you unlock the cruiser, which is a big, heavy battleship starting game. Kick everything's ass right away. Yeah, there's lots of ships you can unlock. I made some of the character classes unlockable too, which means they start out locked.
Oh. Ponicus wants to know how many ships there are in the game that you can eventually unlock.
20. Right now there are 20.
Wow.
Well, I'm sorry, 20 total. So that would be like 16 you can unlock.
Right. 20. Wow, that's more incentive to play, y'all, because we all want those ships. We all love unlocking those ships. So, what is, I guess, because I'm just thinking about if I were in your shoes, and my question when I think about that is, what's the thing that makes you the most nervous about bringing it to Steam?
Nervous. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, nobody buys it. I mean, isn't that what everybody doesn't want?
Yeah.
What everybody's nervous about? I mean,
Yeah.
because I want people to play it because I want to keep working on it, and eventually I would have to quit working on it if nobody cares about it. So I mean, and I am just not a self-promoting person, and that's what I need to be to do this. I just, honest to God, I just like to make new systems. I like to code. God,
It's so
tough.
I'm with you. Like I wish I
just needed to reach more people.
Yeah, no, I wish I was better at self-promoting, but I am terrible at it.
You just love what you do and you want to do it, and you don't really want to have to mess around with anything else. Yeah,
I don't want to yell at
totally
people
get
and
that.
go, "Hey, look at my stuff, please, please." I don't want to bother people.
Yeah, it's a rare thing to find a guy that's a marketing guy and an artist. All right, so it's like those
for sure.
Those people
For
are blessed
sure.
unicorns.
I mean, it takes a level of extrovertness, I think, to really be able to market yourself. And I am not at all.
Well, if nothing else, this podcast will have shipped several copies.
Yeah, hope. Yeah, that's the hope. That's the hope that there's already people in the chat saying that they wish it was out today, and
Cool. Well, I mean, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. I love talking about it, writing about it, actually doing it. So that's great. And I mean, but as far as, you said fears or whatever, I mean, I'm pretty sure that I can handle any of the technical requirements that are needed to get this done. It's just about audience. And I mean, I don't know, man. I'm all for it. I'm ready to go. I'm I'm tired of waiting. Let's get it on. So like I moved it up. I'm ready to go.
So which day does it come out?
It's now Wednesday, just about a week from now. August 5th.
Yeah, August 5th. That's a week from tomorrow, which is also my wedding anniversary. So that's kind of funny.
Ponicus in our chat has said this is one of the best roguelikes ever, and I would agree with you.
I would agree. They're especially if you like classic space exploration games like again Starflight, Star Control. If you like games like that, there's basically this and what's that other one?
Cogmind.
No. There's another very Starflighty like roguelike.
Sorry. I thought you meant like the best roguelikes ever.
No, that is a very good roguelike. But there's another.
If this game Cogmind could just have a little robot baby, that would be.
Strange Universe, I believe it's what it's called, right? There's like 3 Strange Universe games, and they're basically like beat for beat Starflight as a roguelike. So those are also great. Yes, we've played Caves of Cud. That game is bat crap.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Bat crap. That game is amazing.
I'm not sure what you mean by that. Okay.
It's amazing and it's insane. It's one of the most insane games I've ever played.
Yeah, I was like a psychic mole man with eye stalks or some shit.
Yeah,
and it was
Wandering
and
Jin says he can't.
Starfleet Armada Rogue Adventures.
Oh, that's a good
that
one. That's another good one.
Yeah,
that's another very good one. Yes, that's an excellent pick. Yeah, there are a few good space roguelikes, but there need to be more. And so, folks, this is coming to Steam next week as we record this. It is, what is today? The 28th. Yeah, so a week from tomorrow as we record this, which is insanely exciting. Yeah, I cannot wait for folks to get their hands on this. Folks have like probably needed to be playing this for years, but better late than never. And the graphics are so charming that it doesn't like age. So it's aged well, I should say. It doesn't like look old, you know. And some
of them have been updated too. Recently.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like it's cute. It's a little cartoony, but it's not goofy, right? So, and it's not like trying to be like gritty or whatever either. So yeah.
It definitely has a lot of color to it, which is nice. It definitely has humor. That's one of the greatest things about this game, y'all, is more space games need humor. I think so many space games are so serious. And
we haven't even touched on the messages from backers that you can find.
Oh, you mean the ones on the planets when you uncover the planet, when you explore the planet, and there's a message in like the rocks that spells out something? Yeah, that's great. That's true. There's a lot we haven't covered. I think we need another podcast to cover it because this game is huge, y'all. It's huge, and you could play it forever. You can play it for 5 minutes, or you can play it forever. It's one of those games that's easy to jump in and out of, which is one thing I love about it. Like, I got 10 minutes to play something. Okay, I'll explore a planet in this game, and I feel like I accomplished something for the day, you know? So it's great in bite-sized chunks, like any good roguelike. So again, folks, the game is approaching infinity. It's going to be hitting Steam next week, August 5th, for a early access starting price of $10. And it's early access because more is going to be added, more is going to be done to it. So definitely check it out, y'all, because it's really an amazing game that more people need to play. Ponicus says he's going to make it rain for you. If Ponicus, if your generosity in my Twitch stream is any indication, I don't doubt that for a second. Ponicus is one of those people who'll come in, he'll get a subscription for himself and then gift 5 other subscriptions, like just out of nowhere. So,
oh, hey, Ponicus. All right, I recognize you now. Hey, hello. That's great. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. It's a very small world. It's not as big a world as you think. So, folks, we're going to wrap it up here. Again, the game is approaching infinity. It hits Steam next week in early access, $10. Not sure what our podcast is going to be on next week. I have reached out to some people for potential guests, and I've not gotten any confirmation on any of them yet. So it's kind of up in the air right now.
Back.
Bob is going to be busy, I think.
Part 2, yeah, you get that's the night before release. Yeah, you're going to be. Yeah, we wouldn't do that to you. You're going to be very busy getting that
Don't
ready.
plan anything for 72 hours after you release the thing.
So don't forget to join us tomorrow at 6 a.m. for another stream. I forget what I'm streaming, but 6 a.m. tomorrow Pacific time, and Thursday for our weekly LAN party. We're going to be trying. Well, I'm going to be trying Hyperbox. What's it called? Hypercharge
Unboxed.
Hypercharge Unboxed. It's a first-person tower defense-y game where you're an action figure. I've only played a little of it, but it's astounding. So that's what we're going to be playing. You can find all this on the calendar at spacegamejunkie.com. Keep an eye on that, and I'll also be announcing what the next guest is once we finally confirm them. But thank you so much, everyone, for listening and for watching. Bob, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and tell us about more about Approaching Infinity. I hope this gets more people excited about it and gets them to buy the damn thing, because it's freaking great and deserves to sell 1 million copies.
Yeah, and hey, Cyberpunk ain't coming out, so you got nothing else to do.
You
so
have, yeah,
this
like Cyberpunk.
This is your Cyberpunk
back.
replacement.
Oh my god!
All right.
Thanks for watching and listening, everyone. Again, a special thank you to those who support us on Patreon and Twitch. You guys are the best. And with that, we'll see you back here tomorrow at 6 a.m. Pacific. Have a great night, everyone. Bye bye.